Hey, June. How you doing? Hey, Bob. Oh, we got Bernice.
Hello. I was on mute.
Everybody have a good lunch?
I did.
Peanut butter and jelly's good, yes.
Okay. Hey, peanut butter and jelly is actually, pretty healthy. No, not a bad thing. So, all right. So we're back. It's afternoon, and let's see who we have here. I wanted to talk about a couple of things before we get too far into looking at the work. And I'm hoping Eloise will come on here in a few minutes or so. But she actually, Eloise actually asked a really good question. She sent me an email, and she was kind of expressing that she wanted to see her work evolve and her work change, right? For the better. That's what we all hope for. And I guess the only thing I can say to you about that is it's all a matter of you just have to keep working. And it's like the more you do it, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend all day sitting at an easel, okay? But just taking a little bit of time each day to draw, a little bit of time each day to, maybe you don't accomplish, a full painting, but maybe you do just a quick little study. In her particular case, she was asking about, and okay, good, she's here, about loosening up her brushwork, as a possibility to improving her work. And, there are things that you can do that are quick little studies, little alla prima paintings that maybe spend 45 minutes to an hour on. And, they're not very big, but, you really push yourself to try to not over tighten everything up, right? And not get too caught up in the details. Those are always good practice, and no, they don't always end up being your best paintings, but you learn something in the process of doing it. It's practice, and it's not only practice with your hand, it's practice with your eye and practice with your mind. Because so often it's like, we get into this situation where we're working on something and we just keep drilling down to the details. And, we just want to get those details in there. And, I think we kind of miss an opportunity to step back, and look at the piece of work and really kind of think about it and see it, for what it is, and be able to say, okay, maybe I've done enough. Maybe I don't need those details. And that can lead to your work being a little bit looser, a little bit freer. Now, if you want to look at examples of artists who really pulled that off really, really well, and we've talked about some of them before, a lot of people know John Singer Sargent, for example.
Oh, love him.
Yeah. I mean, good artist. For a time, he was touted as America's, premier portrait painter. That was short-lived, though, because of the rediscovery of a woman by the name of Cecilia Beaux. Okay. So it's Cecilia and then B-A-U-X. You need to look her up. She's got some beautiful work, right? And then there's a gentleman by the name of Joaquin Sorolla, okay, Sorollo, okay, and you probably need to look at him, all right? And then Andrew Zorn would be another example. And if you look at their work, they have this ability to be very loose, you know, with their paint strokes, and yet accurate. Okay, and that's kind of the key there. You know, if you want to paint loosely, you can paint loosely, but you also need to work on your ability to be accurate. And somehow those two come together and make this wonderful sort of expression, you know, in paint that really tells the story of what they were seeing and kind of what they were feeling. You know, I know as an artist, I've done this for a long time, and I struggle still today with being, you know, really kind of loose and free, and having that bravura to my work that, you know, the examples that I gave you, you know, all kind of demonstrated on a regular basis. And all I can say is the only way to get there is you just have to paint. You know, you just have to get a brush in your hand, and you just have to start pushing paint. And then you've also got to know when to put the brakes on yourself and stop from overworking stuff. And that's it. You know, so it's practice, and then more practice, and that's all I can really tell you. But
This
yes,
is Bob. Can I interrupt for a second?
sure.
I've known Eloise now for about maybe 3.5 years,
Mhm.
and I've painted with her in a number of classes,
Okay.
and she has made vast improvements in her work from what I originally saw her work at.
Okay.
So she's doing it. She's actually doing it.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob. I'll pay you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what I, you know, and again, you know, this is kind of just general advice. Okay. You know, being loose and painterly isn't everybody's thing, and that's okay. You know, I mean, we looked at some good examples of that today. None of those folks were what you would call loose and painterly. They were all, you know, very precise, kind of exacting, you know, painters. And again, you know, they're in the world of art. There's this broad spectrum out there, and it all is fine. You know, you can approach it any way you want to, but the fact is, at the end of the day, and I believe this for many, many years, you know, the thing that makes your art different is the fact that you did it, and that you see the world in a very different way than anybody else. And so you're going to react to things, and you're going to interpret them, you know, in a way that will always look like your work, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about, you know, trying to develop my style. You know, a lot of young people, that's what they're crazy about. You know, it's like, well, I've got to find a style. And the fact is, you know, you were born with a style, you know, and you may not be happy with the style that you have, but that's your style. And the thing is, you know, learn to work with your strengths. But, you know, you can change over time, but it does take a lot of work and a lot of effort to do it. And you've got to do a lot of practice, right? Anybody got anything to say about that?
Thank you, Charles.
All right.
I haven't known Eloise a long time.
Mhm.
The work that I've seen her do, I love it.
Yeah,
We just all have to realize what our style is,
right.
because
Well,
we all still becoming.
mhm. Yeah,
I
I
want to
mean,
be like her when I grow up.
yeah.
Thanks, Wanda Bernice.
Well, look, when I was going to the Academy of Art, and you know, I was in my 20s at that point, and everybody was running around, you know, pulling their hair out, you know, trying to figure out what style do I want to work in, you know, because you have all these different choices. And the fact is, you know, you work in a multiple, you know, variety of styles. You know, you could do one piece of work and it can look like this, and you can do another piece and it can work, you know, look totally different. But in the end, you know, your it's just your process, your working habits and things will kind of create this cohesion with your whole body of work, you know, that you're producing. So I wouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about that. What I would worry about is fundamentals, you know. Make sure that your drawing skills are good. Make sure that you understand value and how to mix color and how to use color to your advantage. Just like the mechanics of your hand and how you put down paint or draw with a pencil or whatever media you're using, the way you see and interpret color is unique. It's not like anybody else's. And it's something that an artist has to develop over many, many years of working. And you find things that you like that work for you and you hold on to them, and other things, not so much, you let go of them. But you've always got to go back to those fundamentals. And if you have those fundamental things right in your work, it's going to be a strong piece of work, right? And we've talked about them, you know, composition, value, you know, your ability to draw, and understand, you know, how to create depth and dimension in your painting and form. You know, if you've got those basic things, you're going to make some good work. So anyway, that being said, all right, let's jump into the things that you guys have sent me. And I have quite a collection here. Okay, and some of these we've talked about maybe earlier in the week or whatever, but I'm going to kind of run through them real quick again. I want to say, John, this is yours, right?
Yes, it is. That's the preliminary. There's a second one that was reworked.
Okay, yeah.
That-
And again, John is kind of working with a limited range of materials. He's got these watercolor pencils. And yeah, this is how he started. And then, you know, we had him soften up the background a little bit. And
Right.
maybe that's in here later. Eloise, I think, was this yours?
That's
You're-
Bob.
Bob.
That's Bob's. Okay, right. That's right. Yeah. This is his Greek olive piece, and we talked about that. This is a piece that Avatel sent in, and this looks like a pastel, maybe on like a black paper or something like that. I like this piece. It's fun, you know. I particularly like these sort of, you know, patterns and abstract shapes and things back there. You know, the thing I would like to see a little bit more of, I mean, the cat's got, you know, such a nice expression, you know, on his face. And I don't know if I'm reading this right, but it looks like his paw. It's kind of laid over his arm here, and he's just kind of resting on it. You know, I'd like that to be a little bit clearer, you know, kind of what's going on right in this area here, and what we're really seeing. But other than that, I mean, you know, it's a really nice piece of work. This is a drawing that Bernice sent in, and this was of her sister.
It's nice,
You know,
Bernice.
Yeah, and it's a lovely little drawing. She wasn't happy with the smile on this, and I don't know. We had talked about it. I don't know whether she made any changes to it yet or not.
No, I haven't. But I remember what you told me, that on the sides, the lips and everything should be a little darker.
Yeah, like right in the corners of the mouth, to maybe
Oh
push
yeah.
back.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that will kind of make her mouth look a little more rounded, like she's actually smiling, right?
Okay.
Right now it's a little bit flat. Okay. And then this was a painting that she had done. Okay.
That was my joy in the morning.
That was your
That's
what?
cute.
Joy in the morning.
Oh, okay. Well, it looks like a happy painting. It really does.
It
And
does.
you got one of my favorite things there, my standard cup of coffee. You know, never go anywhere without it, right? Okay. And then Bernice, you did this as well, right?
Yeah, I took a picture and put things on top of the glass.
Right. Yeah, and we kind of talked about that. And again, this is kind of a mixed media approach. and you know, really kind of a fun, you know, little project to do.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and you found this at
Yeah.
Goodwill, right?
Goodwill, yes.
Yeah, the original. Yeah, and you know, I don't know how many of you people like to shop at Goodwill. You know, it's like an adventure. You know,
It is.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I find all kinds of stuff at Goodwill. You know, I mean, I really love Goodwill. It's one of my favorite places to shop. You never know what you're going to quite come across, and if you ever go to a variety of them, you know, they're all very different. So, this is another painting that Bernice did.
Oh, I need to work on that one.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
The
that's
railroad.
nice.
She told me I need to work on the railroad.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Because
nice.
it kind of gets lost in there. Now, this is supposed to be Harriet Tubman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I would kind of make that railroad element a little bit stronger in there to get that idea across. Okay.
Nice.
And all right. So we did Betty's painting. We talked about that last week. I'm going to kind of skip ahead here. This is a really nice drawing that Bob did.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, really nice value structure, you know, to the face. If you just look at the area from the cheekbone around to the ear, you know, straight across there, the flesh tones, all of that works really pretty nicely, and it has kind of this nice softness to it, and it still turns the form just enough. The only thing that we had talked about was just pushing the value in the hair a little bit in that case. Let's see, we're going to skip ahead. Claudia, we're going to pick on you. Okay.
Bottom lip.
Yeah, this is the Scarlett Johansson piece, the girl with the pearl earring. And, you know, from Claudia, this is still pretty early on, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So
Well, I haven't decided whether I want to do her in just the monotones, you know, just black and white and grays and stuff like that.
okay.
I don't know if I want to put any blues or pinks or yellows, any other color. I haven't decided that yet.
All right. So since you have a traditional underpainting here, are you gonna kind of continue with that approach of like doing this as a traditional, you know, a traditional painting, or are you gonna do more opaque paint over your underpainting? What are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking just to maybe clean it up and in the same color tones and kind of leave it, brighten it up and clean it up. And
Okay.
maybe do another one in color.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. I at first I had the background just kind of with a white around her
Mhm.
and a soft white, and then fade out to gray or black. And then I decided to just make the dark background
Mhm.
because I hadn't decided to what I wanted to do with her. Because I kind of like her, and I was thinking about doing another one of her in color.
Okay.
Is
Yeah,
this
I'm
acrylic paint?
I like this as a monochromatic piece,
Mhm.
and you could keep it that way. You know,
What kind of paint is it?
is
It's
it oil?
oil paint. It's oil.
Okay. Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, and I guess the thing I would say is, you know, before I would call this finished, you know, I would probably go back in and start softening, you know, some of
Yes.
the areas of the face
Yes.
and try to get kind of some softer transitions in there.
Yes. I wouldn't call it quite finished yet.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, you know, I think you've got a good start on it. And I actually like the darker background because it creates more depth in the piece. So
Yeah, but remember I told you I was having problems with the folds in the sleeve?
Mhm.
In the sleeve, the sleeve on her dress.
yeah, right here.
There's folds, yeah. I'm not comfortable with those folds. I think it can.
Yeah. Well,
What do
We
you
talked
think?
about folds a couple of times. And the thing with folds are you don't want to repeat those shapes and those proportions over and over again because it becomes a pattern. So you want to make each one of them different, you know, different size, maybe a slightly different thickness. So, you know, be real aware of, you know, how much distance you have in between those dark spaces in there and
Mhm.
vary them. You know, the more variety you get, the more natural it's going to look. And just because you see a fold doesn't mean you have to paint it in there. You know, the only time you really want to draw or paint a fold is when it really helps you describe a shape or a form. Other than that, get rid of it. You know, don't, again, that's kind of a detail thing. You know, just eliminate it and really kind of think about, you know, is this going to help me tell the person viewing this painting what the underlying shape of that arm was or what it was doing. Okay. And if it's not going to help you, eliminate it, get rid of it. Okay.
One reason why I was going to also leave it kind of like it is,
Mhm.
I was going to make copies of it to give to my grandchildren and let them color it with colored pencil and see what they come up with.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That
Give
could,
them a
that could be
give them a
fun.
little art project.
All right. Yeah. That's an approach. Okay. Let's see what they do.
Yeah, see what they do.
All right. Now this is a piece that Eloise sent in, and it's interesting because it's kind of gone through an evolution. And Eloise,
Yes,
are these the same two paintings, or are these are two
it's
different?
the same. It's
Oh,
the
it's the same
same.
thing. Okay, so you've just filled in the background here, and that looks like an earlier version when you were trying to put the hat on her head, right?
Yes, yes. The class suggested pillboxes, so I looked up pillbox
Right.
on the internet and got one and copied and put it on there. And
Yeah.
I made her face smaller.
Okay. All right. And if you look at this, I mean, that works pretty well, you know, with,
Mhm.
you know, it gives you a sense of her character and stuff. You know, this is really, it's a very nice painting. And you said you were going to try to push a little more color in there or something, or what's your,
Yes, something. So it needs something.
well,
Got
I think it
suggestions?
looks great.
Oh, thank you.
I don't
Very
think
nice
you need
painting.
more color. I think it's beautiful.
Oh, okay.
all right.
Well,
Well,
thank you.
I'll disagree with Naomi
Oh.
and say that
Okay.
you can use more color. Okay. Yeah, right now it's fairly monochromatic, okay, as far as the flesh tones go. And pushing a little more change in temperature, you know, a warmer and a cooler side would help kind of create more depth and form, you know, in the face itself. I mean, I think you've got a good likeness, you know, of her. And I think we talked a little bit about the eyes and the fact that you've opened them up a little bit more, and it gave it a kind of a softer look. But still, you know, a little addition of color in there could help. The other thing is here at the lip area, you have a stronger, darker value, you know, in those lips, particularly like right at the crease of the mouth. And it's not a brown, it's kind of a red. And you could push that color in there. And while you're doing that, go back in and just soften the edges of those lips a little bit, because particularly like on this side, she doesn't really have a, you know, like a sharp, hard outline on her mouth. About the only place that you see that has a sharp edge is really right here at the bottom lip, at the top of it where it meets, you know, the upper lip, and everything else around her mouth is fairly soft. And you've made it, you know, pretty crisp and pretty tight all the way around. So think about that a little bit.
Well, what did you mean about color when you mentioned something about the cool and the warm side? Cool side is dark. I mean, is that cool colors? I mean, shadow?
Well, okay, it depends on the light. Okay, now if we're looking at the reference here, okay, what I would say is that the lights are cooler and the shadows are warmer. Okay, and whatever the lights are going to be, the shadows are going to be just the opposite. All right, so if the lights are warm, then the shadows are going to be cool. If the lights are cool, then the shadows are going to be warm, right? See how that works?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there's always a contrast, right? So, and it's, you know, it's relative, you know, it's warmer than, right? So, like for example, if I were going to cool the temperatures of this down, like in some of these flesh tone mixtures and things, you know, you may not want to go put a lot of blue or something like that in it, but you might get just these very, rather than this kind of brownish, which tends to be a little bit orange, maybe it goes just a little bit more gray or violet right here along the cheek, right? And it seems,
Gray or violet.
yeah. And then as it moves into the shadow, you see how red the shadows get? So these would be warmer than the light area, right? In temperature, right?
Okay.
Does that make any sense to you?
A little. I'll see what I can do.
Okay, all right. Well, you know, you got to just kind of experiment with the color. But, you know, when I'm looking at this, like for example, all under her neck here, it's a darker value, all right? But when I look at the temperature of, say, the light areas in the skin, and I look at this area right in here, you see I see much more red and much more orange, right? In her neck.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when I'm looking here, it's really kind of hard to describe the color. It's kind of,
Pinkish.
well, some areas are a little bit pink, but those are kind of in the midtones. But the actual light areas itself seem to be kind of cool, right? So it's kind of almost like a pale green. And I know you don't think of people as having, you know, pale green skin, and they, you know, they don't really have green, but, you know, it's a little more olivey, but it's a very light, you know, very light value of that. And so, again, the lights are cooler. As it moves into the midtones, it gets a little bit warmer. As it moves into the shadows, it gets quite a bit warmer. Okay. And again, it plays with that idea of if the lights are cool, then the shadows are going to be warm. If the lights are warm, then the shadows are going to be cool, right?
You said
And-
the shadows are warm.
Yes, in this particular case, I would say that the lights are cool and the shadows are warm. Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm taking notes.
Yeah, and that works with anything, you know, any kind of three-dimensional object, anytime you're painting it. And it also works with landscape as well. Because if you're out painting, depending on the time of day that you're painting, you know, your shadows may be cool if you're painting in the morning, right? Because the light itself, you know, from sunrise really up until about 10 o'clock, tends to be kind of in that yellow to orange spectrum, right? After about, you know, 11 o'clock to about 2 or 3 o'clock, it shifts to blue, right? So that's a cool light. And that means that in the mid part of the day, your shadows are warmer. And that's why if you look up under a tree or something like that, it's going to be dark. But if you really could just isolate that color, you're going to begin to see kind of this warm, either red or orange in those shadows. And they're not going to be blue shadows. They're going to be warm shadows, you know, during that time of day. And then as the sun begins to set in the afternoon, it warms up again, see, and the spectrum of light shifts from that blue more to a red to violet, right? Which is warmer than blue, right? So again, things are going to flip. You know, your light is going to be warm, so your shadows are going to be cool, right? And so it's going to go back to those green and purple and blue type shadows, you know, in the evening, you know, just before sunsets. And that's what makes, you know, painting at that time of day so dramatic is because of the light and how, you know, the light reacts in both the shadow and in the light.
I never thought of that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to think about, but hey, this is the fun of, you know, painting. We got Fran. She did these really lovely little drawings, you know, and they're kind of quick sketches, but they're really kind of nice little slice of life, you know, just, you know, kind of things in the moment.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. We've got Ilan, who did more work,
Oh,
you know, on this
if
piece.
you do. Did you get my 2 that I sent you today? I sent you a butterfly, crayon resist, and a portrait.
No, I didn't get those.
Oh,
When did
I
you send
sent it, but probably was just about half an hour before class, so maybe that's why.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. I may not have gotten them because, yeah, I was busy getting ready for class. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I was getting ready for class. I sent it to you.
Okay. All right. The interesting thing about this piece is Ilan started it off, and he started it off using bubble wrap. And he put paint on the bubble wrap, and then he used the bubble wrap as a stamp, you know, to begin to get, you know, his underlying color. And he did the kind of the magenta color first, and then he went back in with a blue paint on there and built up an interesting texture. Now he's just kind of filling in like spots of color and things. And it's really kind of a fun little abstract piece. I'm interested to see where he goes with it from here. You know, when he's here, you know, he's been putting it up as a background the last couple of days. And then we've looked at, I think, most of these. Jean, yeah, did a watercolor, and the dog we talked about. I think we talked about her bird here. Let's see, who else? This was kind of an interesting piece. This is, John did this rendition of Renoir, of this young girl. And again, that's with the colored pencil, but he's beginning to use that colored pencil a little bit differently and get a little freer with it.
And I'm trying to also use water with it instead of just
Right.
the stroke of the pencil. And once I've done that, and I don't have any brushes with me, so I've been using a paper towel to sort of move around some of the colors and blend them a little better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that does create a bit more of a challenge, doesn't it? When you don't have brushes. Okay. All right. Yeah. But you know, you're getting some nice effects back here, you know, and this is considerably softer, you know, than her. And I would say, you know, take a little bit of that, like under the jawline, you know, and just kind of soften some of the edges. Because really where you want to focus is really kind of right in here on the features of the face.
Well, I did go back a little bit, as you suggested, using the white pencil.
Yeah, just to soften it down a bit.
Soften around the corners of the mouth, and then it
How did that work?
worked good.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it might work out for you. Let's see. Oh, okay. Here's the bird that we showed at the very beginning. And so again, you know, he went back into the background, took some water, softened all that down. And that really made the bird pop out, you know, with the contrast between, you know, the soft and the hard edges. Is Lady here?
So this is Wanda. I was wondering, I was having problems sending you some of my work. Did you receive any of it?
I'm sorry, what?
This is Wanda.
Yeah.
I had been having trouble sending you some of my drawings. Have you received any of them?
Yes, I did. They're down, you know, you're a W, right? And you sent me this, right?
Oh, that's very nice.
That's Bernice.
That's Bernice.
Oh, that's Bernice. Oh, okay. Well, I credited the wrong person.
That's
all
nice,
right.
Bernice.
Well, now this is what this.
That's the original.
Yeah, that's the original. This is Bernice's piece. This is her
Very nice.
version of it.
Oh, look at the butterfly for the nose.
Yeah, yeah. That.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I like this. The whole idea of this piece was really kind of nice.
Very nice.
My question is, what kind of paint are you using, Bernice?
Really,
You're using acrylic. Okay.
I don't know how to use oil.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with acrylic. You know, I like acrylic actually. It's pretty useful.
You said that that's good for faces.
Uh-huh. Well, you did, you know, you did a nice version of this. Now, I'm going to challenge you a bit though.
Okay.
All right. Now this is where we jump off into the deep end of the pool. All right. So what I want you to do on your next project, when you see something that inspires you, rather than just copy it, okay? I want you to take that idea, you know, like, let's say this face, all right? So if I took this face, or the idea of the face with the plants and things, and then rather than do an exact copy of what they did, try to replace it with the face of somebody you know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like you, okay? Like if you were gonna do your face, right?
Mhm.
Where would those be? What kind of shapes would they make, you know, to look more like you? You know, or maybe, you know, if you have a granddaughter or a daughter or somebody like that, you know, maybe you want to do something like that of them. Okay? And that way you see you end up making that piece of artwork more yours, right? And, you know, the source that you looked at was an inspiration, you know, it was something to start with, okay? Rather than just trying to, you know, copy that, all right?
Okay.
Okay, all right, see, the gloves gone down though, okay? So I want you to think about that. These are some interesting pieces that Naomi sent in.
Yeah, we saw those.
Yeah, we saw these and talked about them a little bit. You know, we saw that, I think that was a couple of weeks ago. But I really like where she's going, you know, with trying to really push the color in the face. And thus far, out of all of them that I've seen, you know, this one's fairly successful. She's got a fair amount of color in there, but the value structure seems to work better than, say, where was that? Like this piece, which I also liked. You know, I like it a lot. It's just somehow I want to see her unify these values, even though the color changes, but to try to get the value structure to work so that it really tells you what the form of the face is doing. Let's see. Again, you know, that was a really nice piece that she did. And then, is Linda here? I don't know whether Linda's online or not. She had trouble getting on this morning, but she had done.
She's on. She's online.
I'm
Oh,
on.
good.
I'm on.
Yay!
Finally got it. Yeah, finally got on today.
Good.
Yeah, I couldn't get on this morning either. I don't know what was going on.
All right. So we don't have a lot of time, but kind of what's going on here with your watercolors?
I was just in the back. I was just on the porch, kind of messing around. I had salt, those little salt needles, a little salt on it when it was wet, and there wasn't anything particular. It was just the sunlight was out there, and I was just sitting on the porch.
Okay.
So
Now, after this dried, did you rake the salt off?
yes, I did later. I photographed it while it was drying. I have it now, and it's raked off.
Yeah, and
It may have some. Yes, it might have some white spots on it now.
right. Yeah. And so if you would kind of take a photograph of those
Okay.
and send them so that
I
we
will.
can kind of see what that effect is like. Because yeah, this is still when the salt is on there and it's wet. And the thing is, you know, you can use this with acrylic. You can use it with watercolor. It's probably more effective with watercolor. But another thing that you can use are things like drops of vegetable oil. You know, you can use alcohol, right?
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you put down like a puddle of wet paint, either acrylic and or water, any kind of water media, and take an eyedropper and just put a little alcohol in it and see what it does to the color. It'll make it diffuse in a different way. And you can get some interesting effects with stuff like that. But salt, alcohol, like I said, vegetable oil.
Hi, Charles.
Yes.